I'd like to talk to you today about case 6 in our book. It's about John Arnett, who is a truck driver from the Teamsters and has a contract with Sage Food Services. He experiences a dilemma related to his contract that he signed and agreed upon. It is a management of payments for his holiday and when it should be paid and when it should not be paid. The dilemma that puts him in a position that makes him miss his holiday payment, which takes place on a Tuesday because he works Tuesday through Friday. The organization thinks that this is a breach of contract, and so that they should not have to pay him his holiday pay. To get into this further, let's go to slide 2. As a human resource person, you are supposed to make sure that your handbook and your rules are followed and properly written out in the employees' handbooks that you give out, even to subcontract people and other services that you deal with. The organization should promote employees to bring up suggestions of changes in the handbook, if need be, as a suggestion box or something like that. But there should be some flexibility with Sage Food Services and the rules that they have put forth in the contract, because there's standing practice that they have avoided this before. This would enhance the relationship between employer and employees if there was some kind of suggestion box and sticking to one way of running things. The contract provisions need well understanding and should gone through thoroughly for John when he signed this contract. He should have looked into it further. Next slide, please. John Arnett is aware that for the employees with Monday at work, they get excused from work for that day because of the holiday. And those who begin their work on Tuesday gets that day off. He decides to extend his leave by taking Wednesday off too and calling it for a leave of absence. John should be conservative with the organization practices and make sure he understands them. This would make him understand his expectations and what is expected of him. Next slide, please. He took a leave of absence on a Wednesday and feels that he should still be paid for his holiday pay. And it is a gray area in most employer handbooks. They feel that he should not get the pay because of the breach of contract, but he feels a leave of absence is a personal day that he can take off, so he should be able to receive this pay without being penalized. And holidays cater to those who work on a Monday and any other day that it is observed. Wednesday is not stipulated in the agreement that it is a holiday, but he does have personal time, which is leave of absence. And he should not get punished for anything else for taking Wednesday off. Next slide, please. My arbitration would create a platform where the organization, Sage Food Services, and the employee, which is in this case John Arnett, come to an agreement, which is fair for both sides. It is indeed true that the contract provisions recognize Tuesday, but John decided to extend his week and called in and informed the clerk ahead of time. He did well by his part by informing that he will not be at work, and there has been previous practices where they have not penalized people for calling off a day and using a leave of absence time because that is their time to use. The case would present unique to present. This is due to the stipulation provisions in the contracts and that. However, Annette seems not committed to the contract. Maybe he didn't read it thoroughly enough. He should have took his time and read it page to page. As an arbitrator, Arnett should be paid. This is the way I feel. The organization should pardon him because he informed that he would not be there. Next slide, please. Just like other manual positions in an organization, the Director of Human Resources should make sure that the operations of the organization are well run so that they set objectives to meet accordingly. The position should work in the multidisciplinary team in order to provide a wide spectrum of effects or interventions. This is where the human resource comes into play, and they should step in and say, hey, listen, we know that you called off and it is your time to use. We feel that you shouldn't be getting paid, but we're going to pay you this time, and going forward, we are going to make sure it is our practice that you do not get paid for the day after holiday, because leave of absence days are not specified as working hours. And this is something that should have been brought forth to him in his contract before he signed it, to let him know that working days are what, working hours is what you need to qualify for your holiday pay. It'll help him with decision makings on if he wants to sign the contract or not. Also ensures the organization plan and strategy is well implemented. He's got to make sure as an HR that supervisors and the people who do time cards follow the way the employee handbook is written, and not decide this time we're going to pay it, this time we're not. It is something that has to be down and in place. Next slide, please. The time management assists employees and employers to plan well for their activities. He gave notice. They had time. They should have been able to plan to replace him for that day. And strategic planning assists in the achievement of the time-framed objects and ensure that they are achieved within the time stipulated. He gave notice. They could have called somebody and said, hey, we need somebody in for tonight. Ask somebody to stay. Have somebody come in early. All these are options. As a supervisor myself, I do this on a daily basis. Calling people, seeing if they'll come in early, or people will stay late. Plan of action ensures that the company will still be running. Make sure that the plan's in effect, and make sure that all the time is done wisely. And the last three slides, 8, 9, and 10, are my conclusion. Labor unions have been in the forefront to make sure that their employees are not exploited in terms of salaries, nature of work, and their designated roles. However, they should first make their members understand the agreements of the contracts that they are signing out with people, so there's no conflict between the parties at all times. To have a good business plan in effect and having the employee handbook read out correctly to an employee that starts, and tell them, here, sign off on this, and once they sign off on that employee handbook, then there is no argument if they should get paid or not get paid. Yes, he signed the contract, but there should have been another signature about the employee handbook. But for this argument, he should get paid for a holiday, because it does not specify what working hours are. And if they don't consider personal time working hours, then they should have specified. Thank you, and have a good day.